So here is a better production technique when working with text, is basically keep your text inside of a separate comp. This way it's not as distracting, especially if the text is not really going to be timed to the video itself. This is just a different production technique to use. So what I can do is I can select all my text layers. I can do this from the layer palette, or I can select it by shift clicking. Holding down the control key, I'm going to go to what's called pre-comp. And I'm going to call this scale 15 second, 3 second text. Okay, so what that did is I put this in a separate comp. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you want to edit that comp, I can either double click here, or I can go over here and double click. Okay, so if I make changes to this, it's automatically going to be affected inside of that comp. Now, what I'd like to do is I basically want to set up a scale technique, right? So I'm going to start this from scratch. So I name this composition scale 2x3. Actually, I should call this 3 seconds by 5, which would be 15 seconds. So let's just call that. It's a good habit to get into naming your comps something that you remember next week, next month, next year. Just don't name it for today. So Command T, and I'm simply going to type in the word 1 and Command return. Now the reason I'm hitting Command return, if I don't hit Command return key is just going to go to the next line. That's not what I want to do. So Command return. Then I can just go hold down the Command key and put this into place. Now if you want to increase the size here, you can put your cursor over here, and if I hit the up arrow, it'll go up. Shift up arrow will go up in greater increments. So I'm going to make this big and bold and hit the return key. Okay, so right now I want to move this at 3 seconds. So Option Shift 3 point and hit OK. So now I want to trim to that point. Again, it's Option right bracket. So let's go back home and let's scale this in from 0 to 100. How can I do this? Well, let's go out 5 frames, Command arrow key to the right, Control on Windows. 1, keep in mind over here to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Option S for scale. So this is my final scale position. I want to scale it at this position. I then go home and I turn my scale to 0. And I put in a motion blur. I always like the motion blur. Now to see what that looks like, I'm going to hit the V key to go to my move tool. It's just going to scale in. Now if you want to have that a little bit longer, I can scale this out. But now I'm set up to do this the right way. So now I can go out, Command D, left bracket, move in just a little bit, and call this 2, and Command return. Duplicate, go out, hit the left bracket, move in just a little bit, and 3. I'm going to pause the video because this is, you don't need to see me doing this. I'll come right back. So here I have 3 seconds times 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now again, I probably, on a personal note, probably wouldn't leave one piece of text up there for 3 seconds. I'd probably do it in 2 seconds. But since we have 15, 3 times 5 is 15. 2 times 5 is 10. Even 2 times 7 is 14. So I'd have 1 extra second left. Now let's see how we can put this back into our video. So I'm just going to delete that. And if you're brought in your video and you want to put in your comp timeline scale, I select it and simply hit Command / and there you have it. If you want to learn how to create shapes like this, I'm going to kill the sound on that. So therefore, if I made a typo or if I wanted to do a color change, I can just double click, go to the color. Let's change this to, I don't know, let's change it to blue. And then double click back right here. I can go right back into my timeline. And now it's blue. Okay, pretty cool. So this is directly related to your comp, but the advantage of this, so let's say I want to scale everything down or I want to move everything. It's really simple to do. So I can basically, because my comp is selected, I can basically take that whole entire comp and move this someplace else altogether. Or I can choose to maybe rotate it a bit. I'm not going to rotate it with the keyframe, so I'm just going to hit R for rotation and then just maybe rotate that back just a bit. So maybe that's how I want to have it come in. But since I did it inside of a comp, it's really easy to make those global changes because it's inside of a comp. So I think that's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool. So for whatever reason, if it's a typo, you have to double click and go back into the original. But if I just want to put this someplace else, maybe up to the left, up to the right, maybe I want to scale it down. Maybe I don't want to make it that pronounced and that big. Again, I'm not setting my keyframe for this. I'm simply just moving it inside of that composition. I'm moving the composition as a whole. Very, very cool, powerful production technique. Make good use of this. Subscribe, comment. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Again, I apologize about my voice. Hopefully it'll get better in a couple of days. Thanks again for being here.